Age group, I'd say the biggest thing is, I was seeing it in the last group a little bit, that the routine will create the focus and the accuracy for all these pitchers. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I think getting these guys to start on a knee, before they even pick up a ball, actually, at this age group, I would have some type of routine for them to get loose. I don't know what you guys are used to having, whether it's any of those little green weighted balls or bands and stuff like that. 14-year-olds, I think, 14, 13-year-olds maybe get some use of some band work. The most simple ones are A's, Y's, and T's, but anything to get some blood flow before they start picking up a ball. I really like when guys, the first time they pick up a ball, they're not working off the cobwebs and their actual every throw matters. I'm sure, as you know, and seeing that the infielders, the hitters, the outfielders, they can work as much as they want. Pitchers, it's, as you guys just mentioned, you only got so many throws before things start to break down and hurt. So I think when you implement a routine where you get these guys working from the ground up, it'll make all those throws that they only have so many of them count. And that's, you don't want them spending the whole time getting loose. So I'd say the easiest one is finding some type of, even if you don't have weight, arm circles back, arm circles forward. And then the fastest way I know for guys to get loose with their upper body is just starting with their hands here, reaching out and flipping underneath and trying to get them to do 20 real quick, which will get a lot of blood flow in their arms. Anything that you can get them to do before they start putting the ball in their hand, which, you know, majority of the time they show up, go grab the ball, let's go right to throwing. The next ones I'm going to go over are throwing drills you've seen, but the emphasis that I like on it is getting our hips loose so that we're connected to the ground. So obviously everyone's done this one before. If they're aware enough, I would usually want to start with the same throwing arm as my leg up. This one's going to feel the weirdest to them, but if you get them to push their knee into the ground to create the space and just make sure that this front shoulder comes closed, it'll force them to work up and around to get a little bit more lag and get their hips involved using the ground up. Obviously this one is one that we've all done, same thing, just trying to get that shoulder closed, have their chest face to where their hips are open, and then using their front leg to kind of push on through a little bit. From 5 throws there, it's just about trying to get your hips loose. Next one is just a nice breeze over your knees and then trying to fire over the top. So this one I like because it's a low to high and you're a little limited with your feet together. So if you get them to bend and try and work back over the top, that's that ground up mentality that they're going to get the most out of their body. After that, same thing in a split stance, but now they're standing up. This one is one where I like them to be the ball mount of the foot kind of dug into the ground and have their weight go into that. And as they come through, you want to see a little bit of this, or you get them to fire that leg up and through so they're getting their hips loose on that side. And then on the reverse of that one, this one's another one that's going to feel a little bit more complicated for my throwing arm, but dropping the back knee and going across and finding a way over is just going to open up everything in here for them to have a little bit more protection up here. Once these things are working, their arms are going to take less of the force. They always say you can only throw as hard as you can slow down, so the more you can get those grounded things going where they're really feeling into the ground, the less stress that's going to happen up at the top side. Those are probably the easiest 15 throws that they can do, and if you implement them, they'll sequencing will probably take over a little bit easier for them to manage. As they get going back, I like to have guys of that age just kind of get loose for maybe 10 to 15 throws. As they're bringing it back in, that's when the pitches start counting. Maybe they're at probably the higher end, are they at 60 feet at 14? 54, okay, at 54. So I'd usually cap that as they come back in, or if they're still a little wary of each other throwing bullets, maybe an extra 6 feet, but more, that's when I like them throwing it a little bit more on the line. Whereas in the beginning, I like them to use as much as they can as they're going back. A nice drill is, like a defensive drill where guys come down, touch the ground, and fire all the way up through, really getting their legs involved. The other two that I like, This one might be a little more complicated for them, and if you notice I'm struggling with it, this is the throwing arm. Ball would be on the ground, and I just want them to bend over, pick the ball up, come all the way set so that they know that they're balanced and under control. If you notice it's hard for them to do it that way, you just have the same throwing leg up like this, trying to keep their chest up, and then just standing up as they would in a normal pitching stance. This will make sure that they're connected and grounded, and then from there they can work on those hip hinges to get their balance going right. If you set up a little triangle drill where maybe they're throwing bullpens or they had a pitching session and everybody's hitting and stuff, having a little bit of a down, a cool down as we call it, a little triple triangle, you can just put 1 ball, 2 ball, 3 right there, and just have the same thing, 1 leg's up, 1 leg's down, picking up the ball and putting it back down and going around the ring and switching legs. This is gonna really help out them being in control so they have that nice, smooth, long buildup before they kind of explode through. I'd say the routine for them is going to bring that focus into play for their accuracy. The only reason they're not repeating it over and over is usually an extraneous, like a outside thought kind of got in the way, or maybe I thought like, don't do this or do that. So trying to create a routine will help that focus to where they're just kind of be numb to the fact of what they're trying to execute out in front of them. I like to have a routine of everyone's going to be different, but for an example, if somebody's calling the sign, I like to come set, see the sign, take my breath, maybe see the pitch for a second, and then go. And everyone's routine is going to be different, but the more you can keep that the same, the easier it is for them to bounce back and make adjustments pitch to pitch. That's probably, I'd say, the hardest part about pitching is at that age, knowing that they only have so many throws and it's a small window where they get in practice to work on playing catch and throwing. So implementing that type of a routine in the beginning is really going to help the sequencing and protect their arms and get them a little bit more accurate. There's not a whole lot that I would do weight-wise at that age, as we were talking about, they're growing and stuff. Anything mobility that you can get them to just use their own body weight and get better at. The best stretch that I know that works on all, most sports would probably be, planks for the kids where they're here and having them tinker with the world's greatest, where you reach through, switch hands and reach through, where that's all going to be trying to be balanced on the, like we're trying to be powerful with our legs split apart. So these are all things that'll get them in that nice mode of trying to sequencing for that. So any type of planks, get up and get downs, warm-ups beforehand. I'm sure you guys know a ton of different versions of, planks and stuff. If you want me to show you any of them, I can, but it's definitely variable, but I'd say body weight training while they can find some type of mobility is best. And then just throwing with their arms, let them be creative. The main things to look out for is this should be the same. If this one's long, that one should probably be long too. If this is short, we just want this thing to look the same, however it is they're going. A lot of kids you'll see kind of this will be low and this will be high, which will make for a little bit of inconsistency. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I would favor on their arm circle being shorter than longer. And if you see guys reaching behind here, there's plenty of guys at the top level that do that, but they're also strong enough to get that thing back up over the top and use their whole body. Most of the time when you're young and your arm's back here, it's gonna get stuck in the backside. So a nice drill for if you ever see anybody with a long arm is just have them rested on their chest and rotate through, and then it'll come off when it has to. Try to have them hold it there as long as they can, and by default, it'll just keep that arm circle nice and short. That probably is the hardest thing to understand of how to generate power for them, is them thinking they need to reach back in order to get forward. I think the closer you can keep this thing like a catcher to you and rotate around it is probably best. So in doing that, that'd be shorter arm circles or drills where you have them up against a wall standing. So instead of me having to be, I'd hit the wall on some of those arm circles, you can incorporate a towel drill to have consistency where their stride point is the same, a piece of tape, a dime, something on the ground where they look to hit over and over again. But by being, they don't have to be all the way against the wall, but just a little bit of a reminder that if they go there, they're gonna hit it and get stuck. But this will usually clean it up in front, and if you give them a little bit of space, a little freedom to still go back, but at least make it a little bit quicker, so that at foot strike, most of the time, this is where you want to see your guys, is the hand up at foot strike. If you see guys leaning over, it's not a big deal if their hands up, but if it's down here and they're going up, that's when they're late. Anytime the foot's down and the arm's back, that's when they're gonna start having arm problems and things will be a little bit more delayed. But all the stuff in the beginning with a split stance, feet together or feet close together, working down to up, that's just getting your lower body into it. And I'd say that's the biggest thing I notice, is that the kids don't use their legs. And an easy way for that to be done is either this one, or having the defensive one where they kind of stay low with it, so they're really into their angles right there. For the most part, I'd say protect them anytime anything doesn't feel right. There's, as you know, some different eras, different things, guys throw more at different times, but I'd say for the most part, it ain't worth it, and it's gonna only benefit them in the long run. And it's only a game, and you want them to be able to play it for longer. The quicker you can nip it, the better off it is for them. So.